Now, one reason I did want to show you the IPO is IPOs could be an exception to the overall market. And I find that when the market gets iffy like this, and that's probably why that Landry 100 is still doing okay. I'd say okay because it did get extremely creamed a few days ago, like whacked like crazy. And again, that's what happens with momentum sometimes. But the super speculative stocks and something like an IPO, which is also speculative, obviously, can sometimes do really well. It's like people are holding back on. I'll just pull stock out the air, the Teslas or Nvidias or whatever, the big cap stocks that everybody loves, the darlings. They're afraid to put that capital in harm's way, but it's like they seem to have no problem frittering away a little money into some of these more super speculative issues. Anyway, number two, I will carefully plan all trades ahead of time and then work diligently to follow that plan. Plan thy trade and trade thy plan. Now, I've, as I've said ad nauseum, you have to limit the amount of decisions you make when you're trading. When you're trading or doing any other thing that requires decisions, you are using emotions. I got into a heated debate with somebody a while back on this, and it's neurology, and that's I wasn't going to back down because it's neurology. And if she would just study a little neurology, she would understand where I'm coming from. And she claimed that she could make decisions without emotions. Well, if you lose the emotional part of your brain, you would either die or have to be institutionalized because nothing would have an emotion attached to it and you could not function as a human being. But before getting too far into that, the point I'm making here is that, and believe it or not, I have one, is that the more decisions you make, the harder your life will become as a trader, and maybe your harder your life in general. So if you don't take, and I've shown decision trees before, a binary decision tree or whatever, where if you don't make this decision, then you're left with two other decisions and sometimes three other decisions. I don't know if there's a such thing as a trinary tree, but let's say you miss a stock and it takes off. Do you take the trade? Do you not take the trade? Or and then 100 other possible decisions. Well, maybe you take the trade at smaller sizes. Where do you trigger in? Do you just jump in? And before you know it, you're in a lot of trouble. But anyway, these are just some random things, and that's what a lot of the emails look like. Hey, I didn't get this one. It's I see it's already up 50%. Should I still take the trade? It's like, well, I don't know. When I picked the stock, I liked it. Everything was all the ducks were in a row, or planets were in a line, however you want to look at it. When the planets, I think, are going to be in a line really soon. I have to start watching for that. Anybody know anything about the astrological event coming up here soon? I wonder if that's going to have any effect on the markets. That'll be kind of fun to see. I know it sounds silly, but I think what they do is something will happen and something happens in the market and somehow they make a false correlation. But I think it'd be fun to watch. But anyway, I didn't take partial profits and now it's coming back in. What do I do? You get the idea. It's so much easier if you would have just followed the plan and if you would have planned the trade to begin with, obviously. So here's the NBIS was 222 shares based on a hypothetical 100K account, although I do take these actual trades. And the entry was here. You can see the entry down here, 32.25. The stop was down here, okay, 23.25. And then the IPT was right up here at 41.25. That's the complete. And if you want a blank copy of the spreadsheet, I can get you one. I think there's I don't know if it's behind a firewall or not. If you're a member, you have access to the members resources. You have a blank sheet, and all you have to put in is your account size, and you have to figure out your entry and your stop, and then it does the shares for you, the risk, and then the initial profit target. So these are the two you have to focus on: entry and the stop. And I was asked earlier about where's your entry. Your entry is going to be, you want to give the stock quite a bit of wiggle room, okay, on your entry, and that's to avoid being triggered in on noise alone. And then again, as I've been preaching throughout this presentation, your stops need to be fairly loose and you adjust accordingly. And again, the spreadsheet will do it for you based on the amount that you're risking for a 2% risk. Now, as I often say, trading done properly can be quite boring. If you are following the plan, a lot of times there is nothing to do. Do nothing unless there is something to do. And I think it was Ken Lambert that said, doing nothing is much harder than it looks. And that's especially true if you are successful. And who's most attractive to trading? Well, usually it's the most successful people, and they it's something I've been writing a lot about lately. Is like there's a transference of knowledge. At least they perceive transference of knowledge. It's like, well, I'm this surgeon, so trading can't be hard. I'm just start trading tomorrow. They forget that it took them a long time to become a surgeon. And the other example I use is a plumber. It takes many years to become a plumber, but there is a defined career path. In trading, there is no defined career path. But anyway, following a plan is going to make your life more boring as a trader, but longer term, your quality of life will go up. And the biggest thing in trading is avoiding regrets, minimalizing the number of decisions you make. And the best way to do that is to avoid putting yourself into a state of regret by following the well thought plan. And again, as I've done presentations, like I said before, where if you don't follow your plan, then you're left with 2 or 3 other options, and then each of those options branch out, and before you know it, you could get into a lot of trouble really quickly.